Hey guys, welcome to Inner Frequency, episode 3. My name is David, and we're back here with Josh.
What's going on? We're in episode 3.
What is the title of this episode?
We're going to call it Kundalini Ascension, Kundalini Rising Ascension.
Okay. This episode is generally going to be a lot more about Josh. He's been doing a lot of talking this episode, so I'll be kind of sitting in the shadows.
Sorry, I like to rant.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a
little unbearable.
A rantish episode.
You can just like mute me if you want, if you're even listening. But I'm going to be speaking regardless.
Before we actually get into a lot of the in-depth stuff, we're just going to be going through some basic points that we wanted to get out of the way before we delve in.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, you want to start? I guess we're starting. We're recording, right?
We are recording.
Here we go. All right. Well, the first point I wanted to make was I want to make the distinction between religion and spirituality. Now, there's 4 types of people in this world. There's religious people who are living spiritually, and then religious people who aren't living spiritually. Likewise, there's non-religious people who live spiritually and non-religious people who don't live spiritually. So what I basically mean by this is that you can be the biggest religious person in the world. You can go to church every Sunday, wear all the rosaries and crucifixes and say all the Hail Marys in the world. But that doesn't necessarily make you spiritual. If it's just coming out of blind rites and rituals, then it's just it's blind faith. Similarly, on the opposite end of the spectrum, you can wear FUBU jeans down to your ass and play Grand Theft Auto all day long, but you might live a spiritual life. You might live connected spiritually to the flow. So basically the point I'm making is that understanding God or religion or, something outside of yourself merely at the intellectual level, or just devoting yourself to a god or goddess, doing rites and rituals, like almost blindly, just to give your power outside of yourself and praying for something to happen without actually having an experience yourself, to have a connection with spirit at the experiential level, then it's merely, like I said, blind faith or simply a philosophical pursuit or intellectual pursuit. I wanted to make that point because a lot of people have this, it's kind of like a stigma they have with spirituality. They associate it with religion and like the whole religious programming with needing to do this and do that, and there's just a bad vibe behind religion.
Spirituality is usually tied to a religion. It's hard for a person to talk about spirituality without getting into a topic about religion.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the stigma, because for me, spirituality, I could have a long conversation about spirituality and not even touch on any aspect of religion. Now, I'm not saying that religious people or religions take you away from your spirituality. I'm saying that unless you have experience for yourself, then it's merely just an intellectual pursuit. But listening to these stories about Jesus Christ and Buddha and Krishna and Allah and all these different gods and their qualities and embodying them, that's a different thing. And also, after experiencing something for yourself, you may start to notice that all these different religions actually are pointing to a truth that have different labels on it. So that's just the huge difference. I just want to make that point about religion does not equal spirituality. Now, it just means embodying those qualities. Jesus Christ or Gautama Buddha, like I severely doubt they want anyone worshiping them. And I sincerely doubt that they want anyone going to war over them either. Now, these sectarian religions and all this propaganda, us versus them, is all just religion in itself, and that word religion in itself has a vibration to it that I don't feel really connects with the truth of spirituality that I see it. So just embody unconditional love and live it. Live the qualities that these gods and goddesses that these religions are worshiping, and that is your connection to spirituality. You don't need to go around and start doing all kinds of seemingly conditioned rites and rituals that are just passed down and have no literal meaning to you in your life. So that's just the major point I wanted to come across before we really get going, because this episode we're going to be talking about my Kundalini awakening, and it was pretty wild. for lack of a better term. I guess we'll get right into that now.
Yeah, I guess I should probably say during this time that Josh was going through his awakening, I wasn't really a heavy part of his life. We were actually good friends for a long time, really kind of before that episode happened, I would say. And he kind of dropped off the map for almost it was like a couple years.
No, not a couple. Well, working at McDonald's.
My life, out of my life, it wasn't.
Probably, I dropped off the map with everyone for about 5 to 6 months.
Right.
And I would try to push myself to get out there and see people, but I was so in a state of delirium and
it was just because of the fact that we were working together, and then we weren't working together, and then because of that, we kind of lost contact. And then I heard about what was going on with him.
I'm glad actually you messaged me, said, "Hey, hope everything." Like, it wasn't even until just recently that I started like coming back into the swing of things and like reemerging from my hermit like nature. But yeah, now I'm glad that you messaged me, and because we've been able to connect through this actually a lot.
Yeah, but I guess it would be best to go ahead and get on with that story.
All right. Well, okay, now my story's a long story, but I'm going to stick exactly with how it started in 2010 with spiritual awakening or Kundalini awakening. You can search the symptoms online if you haven't already seen that from our first episode, or I think the intro episode we did. So what I found was happening was the beginning of 2010, I had taken some time off. I started to get just kind of like bothered and kind of anxious with things. I'd taken a year off school. I'd just been working, and I started to get like really anxious for some reason, and that's not normally like me. Normally I'm a social person. I like to go out. I like to talk to people, and I was becoming more and more inward and recluse. And I went on this meditation retreat, a Vipassana retreat, for a 10-day silence retreat, and I think it was the end of January of 2010. And coming back from that, I was still working, but I was still getting like anxious for some reason. I don't know why. I felt like something was happening. I was getting nervous. I was feeling like kind of on edge. I wasn't really, I don't know. I didn't notice any huge physical things happening, but definitely I was feeling anxious.
Well, hold on. This was when you were still working with me, correct?
Well, yeah, I was pretty much working at the Walmart, McDonald's for like I was closing every single night there.
From what I remember, it was it was like when I was like working with him, I guess you'd say, it was like he was looking for something. When we would work together, we were involved with a couple of things and opportunities, I guess you could say. And during these opportunities that we were involved in, he was very anxious, and he was like he was like looking for something. I could just tell. And I remember you going on that retreat now, and you coming back and still being like, And
yeah, I was looking for something else that doesn't really, society can't really offer me, I guess. I don't know. I was on a soul search, and I pretty much got it because I was running straight in that direction for so long, and we'll get into that in future episodes, but I really want to touch on the Kundalini. So because I was looking for it, I was reading all kinds of stuff, having all kinds of experience like meditation and outer body experiences prior to, and lucid dreaming. I think a lot of it was leading me down the rabbit hole. Now, what I started noticing it probably at around June, the end of May and June of 2010. That's when everything just, I couldn't ignore anymore. Something was happening. So here's just a list that I wrote down. This pretty much happened all throughout the summer, these physical symptoms. So start with the anxiety, feeling uncomfortable vibrations, almost like my breath was jittery. I couldn't breathe correctly. I was having cranial pressures that was leaving actual bloody sores on my head, like bleeding sores. It was disgusting. I'd be like, my head was killing me at all times. I had blurry vision, ringing ears, unable to hear anything really. Like the ringing was so loud and pronounced, it was like a gong. I couldn't hear things for like minutes at a time. My jaw was really bothering me. I was starting to get crazy pains in the back of my ears, and like right underneath the ears where it connects with the jaw, I was clicking and cracking, and then my gums, my teeth were really bothering me. That's TMJ. I was having a lot of TMJ issues. Excruciatingly severe pain in the eyes. I don't even know how to explain the pain of my eyesight. Like light became incredibly incredibly strong. I was super sensitive to light out of nowhere. And I still am, but now I've balanced everything. I have a newfound awareness of the energy and what has happened. But during the throes of it, light became so intense. I was wearing sunglasses around the house. Like I couldn't process light. It was too bright for me. I just wanted to be indoors. Not only just light though, electromagnetic devices, TVs, computers, radios, a lot of things that were on were just extremely overbearing in my energy field. I was way too sensitive to it, and I could hear TV from a mile away. I hated it. I'd get headaches from watching it. I was waking up at 3 a.m. every night for like a good 2 weeks, and that was when I was sleeping. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. just pouring sweat after having lucid dreams and all kinds of crazy experiences with what I now know is my third eye chakra, my brow chakra, your pineal gland. That's what was causing the pressures in my head. I now know. And it's funny, it was always at 3 a.m. because that's when it peaks with melatonin production. And also in deep sleep like that, it's releasing a lot of DMT. But yeah, I was waking up for 2 weeks at 3 a.m. and I was waking up in puddles of sweat. It was disgusting. Sinus problems like you can't believe, constant fatigue. I was sleeping sometimes from like 16 to 20 hours a day. I just did not have any energy. Vertigo. I was getting vertigo for probably at least a month, like every single day, hardcore. At one point I was in my brother's room and I remember I was watching something on the media server, some TV. I think it was like 30 Rock or something. And I went to get up and I just like was going through another vertigo spell. I don't know if anyone's had vertigo, but it's just like you completely lose balance. Like your inner balancing things go completely off. You start hearing like your hearing goes out and your vision kind of fades out and your body just slows down. I kind of start feeling like this shaking. It's almost like an internal earthquake. But I fell against my brother's wall and I came to about like 25 seconds later and I noticed I'd knocked over his bookshelf and everything that fell over with it. And I don't even remember it happening. I just woke up and came to and realized that's what happened. So sinus problems, yeah, my ears, nose, throat, mouth, everything, constant fatigue. In forgetfulness, intense skeletal pain, like my bones felt like they were all clicking and cracking and just like throbbed. My digestive system shut down for like 3 weeks. I honestly couldn't process anything. My back and neck especially were just in excruciating pain. Like hot flashes, freezing seconds later. And the reason why the back and the neck obviously gets a lot of it is because that's where your kundalini, your 7 chakra centers, are located on the spine. When you think kundalini, think your spine. That's what it regulates all of your physical organs within it. And all of the research I've done, there's this book called The Biology of Kundalini, which was pretty helpful. I understand it a lot more now that having gone through it. But what the author found out, and she did some research herself, is that it actually influences your parasympathetic nervous system and it rewires it in a sense. And her hypothesis is that there's a lot of different white blood and red blood cell production going on in different areas of your body during different times, and it actually changes through different moments in the awakening. Okay, now all the things I did to pretty much check up on these symptoms to see if it could be anything physical, anything like, am I going crazy? What the hell's going on? I did everything you could possibly think of. I had MRIs, CAT scans, went to an ophthalmologist, an optometrist, neurologist, got blood work done, like tons of blood work done. Went back at least 10 times in the summer, maybe like 6-7 times. Hearing checked, sinus specialist, ears, throat, and nose specialist, psychologist, psychiatrist, anything you could possibly imagine within the field of Western science, I did it. Dentist at one point because the sinuses were like hurting like my jaw and teeth area. So yeah, like I ended up going to a psychologist because basically there's nothing. Nothing was showing up through any of these tests. They're like, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. And in the throes of it, I don't even know how to tell you, along with all these physical things, the most intense low of lows, emotionally, mentally, like, I just did not even feel like I was here. I would be walking around, I don't even know how to describe through words how it feels. It's like Kundalini goes hand in hand with the dark night of the soul, because when you go through an awakening, we'll get into that later. I have a great analogy for it, I think. But basically, you have to surface out everything that is within your chakra system. Any lower vibrating energy, i.e. your unconscious or subconscious conditioning within your brain, comes out, and you experience the lowest of lows, the scariest of fears, the darkest of dark within your own being. And that's what's known as the dark night of the soul. They speak about it in the Bible and in spiritual, like shamanic literature, and how a lot of phantom sickness comes along with it. And it's like you're integrating more of yourself by experiencing that darkness. But we'll get into that later. So yeah, I went to a psychologist, and he really had nothing for me. He recommended me to the best psychiatrist in Windsor. After a few months, he basically came to the conclusion that none of these symptoms fit any particular condition within Western science, and the best thing he can do is offer you antipsychotic medication, like right off the bat. And I'm just like, from everything I've read, when you're going through a spiritual awakening, and it's misconceived or misconstrued as being, some type of psychosis or something. People take these drugs and they end up much, much worse off than if they were to just go through it on their own. And really, that wasn't within his field of his research and education. So he pretty much told me, like, you seem to be fine on your own. You seem to be able to ground whatever's happening to you. That's the term I would use. I don't think he actually used that, but he said, if you ever need to come back, then by all means come back. But if you don't want to take anti-psychs, there's really nothing else I can do for you. So pretty much came to a good conclusion. No, I don't want to take prescription antipsychotic medication that manipulate your chemical processes in your brain that are manufactured. But I'll get into that later, because we live in a backwards culture. So what Kundalini does, really, and I've learned to see this world as a holographic simulation. If you look at like the holographic universe, all of the material to kind of convey that idea that we do live in this vibrational field that is just in fluctuation, and we are holographic. The Mandelbrot set, actually, we'll get into that, talks about how everything is holographic in nature, and how if one thing happens, like something happens to me, I affect the whole, and it reverberates from the micro to the macro. But so I've learned to see this world as kind of like a hologram. The Matrix, if you want to think of it that way. We pretty much live in a Matrix. But I take an analogy from David Icke and kind of expand upon it. So we're just all a bunch of computers. Our bodies are just biological computers that decode this world through our 5 senses. And what the world is just Wi-Fi signals. It's just a bunch of frequency, and we're picking up on it through our biological computer. Now, when you go through a Kundalini awakening, it upgrades or rewires your operating system on your biological computer. But before you can run the new operating system, your old programming, your old subconscious and unconscious programming, all this old OS, if you want to think of it as like Windows 95 or Windows 3.1, it has to surface, and that code has to come out. So what that means at the experiential level for the person increasing their frequency, having Kundalini rewiring their operating system, turning themselves from ego to super consciousness, all your fears that have been instilled from your youth, which then mold your personality, so your cultural programming, your societal programming, your familial programming, any type of ideas that you have about yourself which limits you to experience in an ego construct, have to surface. And if you want to speculate, I mean, you don't have to take this. You can drop it right here if you want. But if you want to speculate about reincarnation, the claim behind reincarnation is that our reaction to the world of form thus generates sankharas or karma. So the more karma we have, basically, is our programming, our unconscious programming that we carry from lifetime to lifetime. And the goal, the road to enlightenment, is the process of transmuting these programs. And that's an alchemy term, but it really does essentially mean the transmutation of lower vibrating energies from fear, guilt, jealousy, anger, and transmuting them into higher ones in order that you do not actually live with them within your energetic structure. They have to surface first. So I guess that is the best analogy to come through when it comes to Kundalini. But the thing is, you can't experience it right away. Like where I'm at now, I'm still in the process of stabilizing, but I'm much better than where I was. But during the throes of the awakening, there's all kinds of stuff you have to do. You don't have to do anything. I don't want to. That's a bad vibration. That's a bad energy in that word alone. But there's all kinds of great things you can be doing in order to help facilitate the process and make it as painless and as unnecessarily long as you can. Make it as short as you can, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But so the best things you can do physically during a Kundalini awakening. First of all, number one, eat real food. Eat good food. You don't want to eat any heavy refined foods like white flour, refined sugar, or any heavy like carbs. They don't go well with the Kundalini awakening. Best to stick to like real chi foods like fruits, vegetables. Eat whatever you want because your body will tell you what you want. Just listen to your body. That's the best part. Listen to what your body is craving. But basically treat yourself well. Like you're on a new operating system. Unfortunately, you can't play King's Quest V on Windows 7. I've tried. I actually tried installing it the other day. It doesn't work. But yeah, it's all right though because there's more games. There's more King's Quest to run on a higher operating system, right?
If you're a super programmer, you can hack it onto Windows 7. But
can you do that for me?
Those kind of rules don't really exist in this metaphor.
This world, this analogy, I guess. Eh? All right, but on a side note,
I'll get you that. I'll get you that King's Quest 7.
Actually, King's Quest 5.
Oh, 5.
You're boring King's Quest 7, I think.
Yeah, I lost that.
It's all right, dude. No worries. Comes out in during our recording here, and this is just like a great way of becoming non-reactive and equanimous. A lot of my ego would have attached myself normally to King's Quest 7.
I lost your King's Quest 7.
You hurt my soul, brother.
No.
So yeah, hook me up with that. That's all you have to do. That evens it out. If you can get King's Quest 5 running, then no biggie about King's Quest 7. But anyway, back to the matter at hand. So real food all the way is as best as you can, as it's available to you. Drink plenty of water because you're going to need lots of water throughout this. Keep your system ozonated, oxygenated. I actually bought, it was kind of weird. It was like right before I started going through this, I had been reading about oxygenation of your cells and rejuvenation and whatnot, and I just bought this $60 ozone generator, which is just a tiny little box that you put on your kitchen counter, and you just put the little tube into a glass of water, turn it on, and it just generates O3, which is 3 oxygen molecules, which is an ozone. And ozone helps oxygenate your system so greatly. Like some places in Germany use this for their pools instead of chlorine. They use it for detoxification, like for bad odors in certain hallways and different buildings. But when you put it in water and you drink that water, it oxygenates your system. So you get the same effect. If you do that, then you do some deep breathing, meditation, or yoga, you'll really oxygenate your system. So yeah, doing that, getting a lot of exercise helps ground the energy through your feet. Being barefoot on the earth, because that.
They're just going to say no shoes.
Yeah, no shoes. Ground your electrons into the earth and maintain that connection, because then you keep yourself stabilized to this dimension.
Shoes can act as a layer, actually, to make grounding yourself to the earth. It's almost like a
insulator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of separates you from being grounded to the earth.
Yeah, it keeps your connection away, like our EM field. It keeps it much more dampened, I guess. If you're connected to the earth and your feet are right against the earth, your aura will expand and you'll feel it. That's why people like being barefoot. That's why people like being in the water, their skin against the water, because there's a much greater flow of electrons through your EM field. So yeah, if you're barefoot and you're doing that, getting a lot of exercise, meditation, yoga, that helps. Laughing, that helps essentially, because even if you're feeling like a pile of crap, like I did for most of those months through the Kundalini awakening, laughing at whatever, even laugh at your own situation, you just got to laugh your way out of it. Sleep as much as you want.
Laughing at yourself, I would say.
Oh yeah,
is probably
Self-laughing.
letting go of
Your ego.
your mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And the funny thing is that going through this, I was kind of forced to do that. Like, with everything that was happening to me, I had to laugh at myself. Otherwise, like, I don't know what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
So it almost, with all these seemingly negative things, all these physical changes, it actually engaged my consciousness to remain more non-reactive and equanimous with what was happening. It's like, well, no one knows what's happening. It was great because it allowed me to put power completely in myself, because these doctors, these psychiatrists, family, as much as everyone wants to help, and I appreciate everything, but there's nothing you can do for someone going through Kundalini awakening. It puts the power back in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you're able to laugh at yourself through it, it's like you become more non-reactive, I guess, and you become more one with the flow after going through something. And I mean, that goes with any life-changing experience. I'm sure people that have near-death experiences have this, and NDEs actually do set off Kundalini awakenings. It's been said, but any life-changing experience alters your consciousness. But this really helped me, and what seemingly was very negative at the time became a learning curve and educational. So deep breathing, laughing, sleeping plenty. I was sleeping sometimes from 16 to like 18 hours a night. I was exhausted. I was having all kinds of crazy lucid dreams. I'd wake up just bloodshot eyes, felt like I had no sleep, like just unable to process anything. So sleep as much as you want. Don't worry about what people think of you. That's the best thing. And as more and more people have these experiences, and that's my hypothesis, essentially, is what is going to happen with the increase in vibration of the earth. Not everyone, I want to say not everyone to my degree. I don't think everyone's going to go through an intense Kundalini awakening. So I want to eliminate that fear right there. If it's anyone's minds that, oh shit, I got to go through this in order to know any, if I meditate, this is going to happen. No, it's not going to. It's just, I know friends everyone is being affected by this energy right now to some degree. I know people that have been suffering from vertigo for a few months, don't know what's happening. I know others that are just they're all along the same wavelength. Some of them are having physical problems, little things here and there. But I think people that are going through these awakenings actually house a lot of this energy along with the earth that are affecting other people. So it's just a matter of time before everyone kind of stabilizes collectively at a certain vibration. Okay, another good things for your body: massage, acupuncture, Reiki, chiropractor, anything like that would help. I don't recommend exorcisms, and we're not going to get into
Especially, what was it, 2?
I had some, I guess what you'd say, they're not exorcisms. I had some rites and rituals performed on me by
Some
priests.
rites and rituals. I will write that one down. The next time I ever want to use the word exorcism.
Next time you watch if you see the movie The Rite with Anthony Hopkins this summer, just think of me. I said what seemed as like the devil taking over my soul at first to a number of people turned out to be a blessing in disguise. But I do thank everyone that kind of helped me out in that sense and gave me what comforted them and what they thought might help. So I don't want to devalue any friends or family that helped me through the experience. And but yeah, I don't recommend exorcisms. There's another thing I wanted to get to. Okay, so what you got to do is when you're going through a Kundalini awakening is, if you know that it's a Kundalini, if you know that there's something more happening and doctors aren't coming up with everything, and if you're like in a situation like myself where you go through all this stuff at one time, all in one go, and nothing's turning up, and you're headed to doctors and you're taken here and there, you got to stand in your own sovereignty, your own power. And I mean, first thing Western medicine is going to want to do is intervene with anti-psychs, and it's only going to cause more imbalance. Like I said, it's going to prolong the experience. So you got to be really aware. If you feel like it's going to help and you feel comfort in the fact that you could take some whatever medication they can give you, by all means go for it, but just listen to yourself. I, for one, don't feel it's the right way to go if you know you're going through Kundalini awakening or spiritual awakening. And that's just kind of like our culture is a little bit backwards in that sense, because the good drugs are the drugs that are mass produced and affect our chemical makeup, and the bad ones are the ones that are naturally occurring on the earth and have been here forever. And they're bad because if the alcohol companies would stop, paying for all this propaganda for anti-smoking pot ads, for example, then it would make their market that much smaller. That's why they're bad, essentially, for our culture, because we live in such a capitalist society. And these big pushers, big pharma, are making a crap load of money, even if it means they have to sell some type of medication that has, a list of side effects that pan for 3 pages, one of which includes death. So that's what I got.
May cause death.
Cipralax may include diarrhea, death, abnormal eyesight,
just a complete disregard of life.
Retinal growth.
These people are just completely disregarding human life.
So yeah, I'd have to say stand up
Retinal
for
growth?
yourself. If you don't feel like you need to take it, then don't take it. If you're like me, I never used to be anti, I know antibiotics, they're great. There are a lot of things, penicillin, a lot of things that we've created that are good, and they do a lot of good, but there are a lot of things that are causing so many of these other negative things that we only need more drugs to suppress anyway. So I think just listen to your own body. And it's hard to tell people and your friends and family that you don't want to take this and that or whatever when they want to help in the throes of this, because yeah, they are trying to help, they're trying to do their best, but if you know this is what's happening, you got to stand firmly and be like, no, I am not taking it. It is not helping me. How are anti-psychs going to help with my insomnia? How are anti-psychs going to help with my digestive system? How are anti-psychs going to help with my outer body experiences? Like, these are...
They just will. Okay. It's an anti-psych. It's an anti-psych.
Don't go online and check this stuff out. You're only going to find negative things about it. Just take the pill. Just enjoy it. It's why it's here. Anyway, enough about big pharmaceutical companies, because I know some friends that
God gave us the anti-psych. Okay?
Just take it.
Take it.
Why don't you try smoking a joint? Maybe that would help. If anything. You tell the psychologist that, you want to try some antidepressants? Nah, I think I'd maybe just smoke a joint. Yeah, that might make matters better. No, that's illegal. You can't do that. Have a beer. Have a beer to relax. Here you go. Yeah, when alcohol statistically causes much more violence and death annually than what does marijuana cause annually for death? Nothing. In fact, I want to throw an article up there. I forget where it was, but this lady is 104 years old, and the media was asking her, "How are you so how are you still fairly healthy, happy, what's your secret? What do you do?" And she looks at the camera and she's like, "My secret? I smoke weed every single day." Mind you, obviously, I think she was living in a South American country, or I don't know, somewhere nice. So the environment obviously had something to do with it. But I'm sure the mindset did too. So I don't know. We're probably not going to throw that up there. This is getting off on another tangent. So that's pretty much what I wanted to come across.
I think that's going to kind of wrap up that episode.
Oh, one more point for a friend of mine who specifically is very afraid about 2012, I wanted to say.
Okay.
For those worried about 2012, stop worrying. 2012, in a nutshell, on December 21st, 2012 at 11:11, there will be enough momentum in the biosphere of the Earth where the vibrational frequency will reach a status at which it will pass just over 50%, and from then on, the light, the high frequency vibrations, this energy will permeate the rest of the planet, the rest of darkness, the return of Christ, if you will. Whatever label you want to put on this, that's all it means. It's critical mass. Enough of us are vibrating fast enough to usher in the new world age, and from then on, there really will be no dispute in the century to come as to the new world age. There will be enough things that are happening that there'll be no more intellectual conversation about 2012 is a bunch of BS or this or that. There will be enough momentum within people, politics, society, business, everything, that the Earth, people will know that there is something happening. So all I gotta say is don't worry. Stop worrying. Stop watching the History Channel. Stop watching all the propaganda you'll see on TV. It's not the end of the world in the way they'll sell it to you. just stop worrying. Just drop your fear. That's what this is about. It's everyone collectively dropping their fear, coming out of their own unconscious programming, walking on autopilot, going into wars and nations, being a slave to a monetary policy in which we're printing this money which has no real value, and we're constantly digging ourselves bigger holes. We're on unconscious autopilot, and we're going into control now. We're picking up the actual steering wheel. So here we go. We're taking flight of our plane. That's what 2012 is about. Stop worrying. Please stop worrying. I don't really have anything else to say for this episode. I think we're just gonna end it like that. But every day is a winding road, my friend. Just take it one day at a time.
Alrighty. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm David. He's Josh, and we'll see you next time.